Hello, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the BIM 360 Document Management webinar. Just before we start, I'd just like to let everyone know that I have muted everyone's microphones just to reduce any background noise in the presentation. And if you have got any questions, please feel free to write it within the chat part of your page, and we'll get back to you after the webinar with any answers. And a link to the recording will be made available post the webinar. So we're going through BIM 360 document management today, and we're just going to be having a look at the primary functions. My name is Batul Jabor. I'm a Chartered Architectural Technologist and I'm a BIM application specialist at CAD Assist Symmetry. So what we're going to be looking through today is the workflows of BIM 360 document management. Within each segment there are separate different workflows, so we're going to be kind of testing that, have a look at it. We're going to be looking at folder management, document distribution, how to look at 2D and 3D views, how to mark them up, how to compare documents that have been uploaded several times, how to publish drawings correctly. Then we're going to finalize by issue management and having a look at a couple of pointers with regards to mobile access. In terms of workflows, first of all, you need to have an account at manage.autodesk.com. You need to have a license assigned to your name. Then what we're going to be looking at is account administration, and what does that mean in terms of a top tier of information that needs to be done. Then we're going to be looking at project administration, so what does it mean on a project level rather than an admin level. And then we're going to be introducing document management and how that actually acts as a stem or a backbone to design collaboration. So in terms of the workflows, if we're looking at the setup, we need to make sure that whoever's got the account administration rights is then able to set up the correct people who are needing to be assigned to your project. So for example, within a practice, you would have a minimum of 2 account administration individuals. So if one's on holiday, the other one can come in and fill in for them, and vice versa. So we're looking at the account administration in terms of the person who is going to be setting up a project, adding members to a directory, adding companies to the directory, having a look at making sure that the roles are specific, and we're going to be digesting what that actually means, having a look at the overall analytics of a project, or even the workflow of all of the projects, and just playing around with the settings where needed. So before we jump into project administration, we're just going to have a look to see what the account admin looks like within the BIM 360 environment. So over the BIM 360 interface, what we have here is the account admin page. This is what the account admin will be able to do. They'll be able to add projects to the directory where necessary. They also, so this is within the project environment, they also have the ability to go in and add members, add companies, and importantly, this feature of roles is giving us the ability to basically add specifics to each individual. So as soon as you assign a role, for example, for an architectural technologist, they'll be able to have project administration rights, so they'll be able to add folders, remove folders, add item to folders. They'll be able to look at document management, so we're having a look at this one here. They'll also be able to collaborate within the cloud using design collaboration, which is this one here. If we're having a look at ones where there's a blue person or a blue member, what we can see is, for example, construction manager doesn't need to collaborate within the cloud. So they're not going to be using Revit maybe on a daily basis. They're not going to be uploading the models and working collaboratively, synchronizing them, etc. And so maybe they just need to view, add documents or remove documents. And that is why they're just involved with the document management part. So if your roles are specific and you've defined them previously, what you're doing is you're saving yourself time later on. You're saving yourself the time of going and setting up every single user and making sure that every, if there's 100 users per project, you're making sure that every single one of these are correct. So you don't need to do that. It's eliminating that process. Then what the account admin person will be able to see is the analytics of the project. So for example, how many members do you have active? How many services are activated per member? And when is a renewal date, etc. You can see what type of companies you have. You can see what kind of projects you have. So sometimes you might need to have a statistic of, how much projects is residential, how much of your projects are, or how many of your projects are education. So here's just a bit of a breakdown. It's a bit of a splash screen for what you're using essentially. Then we have the BIM 360 kind of account admin setup page, so your settings. At the moment I am purely the account administration person for this particular project. However, if I wanted to, I can always go ahead and add some more account administration individuals. Likewise, I can always remove as well from this particular one here if I didn't want it only myself to be account admin, and basically you're just removing everyone then. But if you had more than one account admin and you want to remove someone, you just remove them from there. Okay, so we're looking into the project administration part of BIM 360 now. So the account admin would have been assigned to a hub. The account administration person has now set up a project name and added in the details, etc. But now we need to add a project administration individual. Now, where you have got this person who's going to be looking after the project, you might have a couple of people rather than just one person. It's better to do that so that then there's more rights within the project. So you might have 2 team leads, etc. And if one's off on holiday again, then someone else will be able to take that place. But with the project administration, what we'd have to do is set up again the roles, so making sure we've assigned the users. So you might have a team lead and you'll have maybe 4 or 5 delegates working for them. You can then have those individuals added to the project so they can add the files and start working collaboratively within the environment. What you have also got within your project administration is the ability to assign services. So if a project admin can then say, right, okay, this particular individual doesn't need to use design collaboration, therefore they will only have document management, and so they only have a document management service available to them. So before jumping into the project document management, what we're going to be looking at is the project administration. So we need to make sure that the project is set up correctly first. So what we'll have here is the members assigned within the project. You can add members from your directory. The members have to be within the directory before you can add them. Okay, so what we can see here from the company segment of BIM 360 is the ability to know what companies are actually involved within your project, and so is a bit of an overview of the companies. Then when we're having a look at services, this is basically showing you whether there's access to both modules assigned to this particular project. There might be projects where you just need to exchange information and you're not working collaboratively within the cloud. Then you don't need to use design collaboration, and that's where document management is useful, and you can see here what services are active for that particular project. Then we're having a look at the profile. Here's where you'll have a bit of a thumbnail of what your project looks like, and you'll have the details of your project as well added into there. So what kind of project is it, etc. You can always edit this at any time, or if you want to change a project status to become inactive, so they're not shown with all of your projects, then we can always remove them from that list by saying inactive. You cannot at the moment delete a project from BIM 360. Once you've set up a project, it will always be there. It will either be archived, inactive, or active. So if it's a live project, obviously it will be the green one, it will be an active project. So once your account has been set up, your project has been created, you've added the users, it's now time to look at document management workflows. So in terms of this lower stem here, the administration workflow would have been created. Someone's set up the account, as I've just mentioned. Then you've got your BIM 360 document management, which is actually the backbone to design collaboration, or something now which is called BIM 360 Coordinate, which has replaced BIM 360 Glue, and it's also the backbone of BIM 360 Build. So if we're looking at the different tiers, the first tier is the admin work. The second tier is the work where we're now placing our models, we're placing our files, our sheets, our drawings, documentation, etc. within the BIM 360 document environment. So what is BIM 360 document management? Well, it's a centralized database of information which is available for anyone anywhere within the world. Whether you're accessing this on your mobile, accessing it on a tablet or on your PC, from anywhere, you can have that information central. So you don't have to be in an office local to your server or your local area network to then grab that information. So that information is basically, as it says here, a centralized document library. All project documents, plans, models and published drawings are controlled and accessed via this environment. So if you've got anything that you want to add to a particular project, you can add it here. If you want to mark up, which is we're going to see further on in the presentation, you can mark up those documentation and then get that back into the same place within the centralized place. Then we've got initiation of design collaboration. So this is where document management is kind of the backbone of trying to collaborate within Revit within a centralized environment. So if we've got, say, for example, 5 users of Revit, they're all working on the same model and you want to be able to access it from home or from a different country, this is the solution to that. So you will be able to access and work on the same model and synchronize just exactly how you would do from your desk in the same office, but from anywhere else in the world. So it's the backbone to that design initiation of collaboration. So in terms of workflows, if we're looking at document management workflows, we're talking about uploading your models and documents, making sure that we're publishing the documents at the correct stages. So just because we're working within a cloud, it doesn't mean that the third party is going to be able to see your models instantly. So if I was exploring an area to a room and I thought, right, okay, I'm going to put a curved wall instead of a 90-degree wall, it doesn't mean that the third party will be able to see that curved wall drawn exact at that second. I can decide when I could publish that information. So we still got hold of that information while we're designing, while we're kind of updating our design, having a look at our regulations to make sure we're conforming, etc. While we're doing all of that prep work for our design, we can hold that information and we can then pass on that information to the third party as and when we're contracted to. So whether it's every Friday afternoon you must publish, it's just like presenting an issue as you would do within paper if we was going to do it traditionally. So published drawings is a big one, previewing models and documentation. So say a third party has sent you their model. So for example, if I'm architecturally biased, so I'll just say the structural engineers have now sent me a model. I can actually preview that before I create it as a link into my model. So I can say, right, okay, they've now published something. I will explore it before I then receive that model as my active link into my main project. You can compare 2D and 3D documentations as well. So if, say, for example, I have issued 6 different models, so it's 6 different weeks, I've issued 6 different models, I can see the difference between that 6th week with the first week, and I can compare them if I wanted to see what has been added, what has been removed, and what has been modified. So it works a bit like a traffic light system, as we're going to see later on today. In terms of comparing the models, this is really important because, say for example, between 1 and 6 there might be drastic changes, but if we're looking at between issue 5 and issue 6 of documentation which has been published online, we want to know what has happened, what has changed. For example, if a window has been removed from a wall, there's 2 things that has changed there. One has been removed, so the window will be in red, it's removed. However, the wall will be in amber because it has been modified. The area of that wall is increased. We need more brick and mortar to fill the wall. So with the comparing documentation is a perfect part of BIM 360. It's really important because we need to integrate more visual aspects into our design lives. So when we get to that, it's a really important step. Marking up documentation. So if you've got any comments, whether it's private comments to yourself so that then you can go back and edit those items within the Revit interface. So it's a bit like a checklist for yourself, or whether it's a published comment for everyone else to review. So if it's a comment that you think, oh, can we move this steel column, or can we move this concrete column, wherever it's going to be, from this position because I'm thinking of putting a chair there, or I'm thinking of moving my window to be that location. So is it possible to do these kind of items? That's where you're going to be using your markup tools. Then this takes us on to creating issues. So if you want to basically talk about something what you're not too happy with, or there's a problem within the model, you can actually create something which is called issues. So issues is not seen as, oh, we're creating a package of drawing to send to someone. It's not an issue like that. It's an issue seen more of a problem, so or something that you want to highlight within the model. So this is where you can create issues, and it's a thorough kind of documentation process within document management. And then we'll finalize by looking at being able to manage your request for information in a much smoother transaction as well. So in terms of document management, this is what the ribbon looks like. Okay, so in terms of what you're able to do, we have the plans and project folder, which is the locations that you're going to be uploading your projects to. Okay, so your project information will go into either your plans or your project files. The plans and the project is slightly different. So looking at the plans, this will contain the latest set of construction documentation. So this is the little kind of packaged information that you want to have within one place. So for example, building regs, drawings or planning drawings, etc., you would have it within a folder within your plans segment. You can rename it. It doesn't have to be just as plans. You can name it wherever else you prefer. Then we've got the ability to actually extract information out. So at the moment, PDFs are supported for extraction of information from the title blocks. So if you have produced PDFs as a package from your Revit model and you decided, right, we're going to upload this onto BIM 360, then once you've uploaded it into the document management segment, what you'll find is that you want to see what the title is, you want to see what the number is, rather than opening every single sheet. And we can extract that information by uploading a template, and that the number and the title will then be extracted. So it's much easier for you to know which sheet it is that you are opening and what information will be portrayed on the sheets. The project files segment, here all other project documentation types will take place. So schedules, photos, budgets, your Word documents, etc., they will all be within your project files. So this is your live data of information. And then if we're having a look at them as a bit of a stem and workflows, with your plan is typical PDF upload. With a typical PDF upload, you'll add your title block, you'll review and publish, and you can use your publish log. With project files, you have got your upload. It's the basis for design collaboration, automated shared folders, automated consume folders as well. So we'll be extracting and exchanging information that way as well. So, document management, all in all, is a file store location for projects. It's acting as 2D plans, 3D BIM models, and any other project documentation. It's acting as a host for that. Upload and publish documentation. You can view documents and add markups. You can compare document versions. You can create issues and ask for information. You can manage document versions and permissions, and complete document reviews. So let's have a look to see what this will look like within a BIM 360 environment. Within the BIM 360 environment, within the document management folders, you can see that you've got both the plans and you have got the project files. Within the plans, you can have any of your PDFs, and within your PDFs, you'll be able to see your number and title extracted. If I click on one of these, drawings, I'll be able to toggle between the rest of the drawings as well. So by clicking on the thumbnails, this will take you to a drawing that you might want to investigate a bit more or have a look at and explore. Once you're finished with having a look at the sheets or these PDFs, you can just press the X and that will take you back to the main page. When looking at the project files, here what you will want to do is bring across your folder documentation as you would have normally done with your yellow folders. Okay. Now you might want to add a couple of folder structures. It might be a good point for you to re-look at your folder structure and system internally. Are you happy with it? Do you need to increase any of the information on there, and any folders, or remove any folders that you might not be using? It's a good point to basically start with a clean slate. If you go into a particular project, you can see the versions, how many times has this been published to the cloud, and basically you can open up that model and you can investigate the model within your BIM 360 environment. So without having Revit, a client might be able to review this, or project manager who doesn't have to have a license of Revit can then review it and ask about the different segments of it and why they're repeating elements, etc. You can see the different sheets if there was sheets uploaded, and you can see the 3D model if it was just a 3D model that has been uploaded, etc. You've got the ability to orbit, so you can play around with the orbit, whether it's free orbit or whether it's orbit on an axis. So if you wanted to have a look around your model, you can just orbit around freely and just investigate certain areas. You've got the ability to pan, zoom, fit to the view so that you can see the entire drawing, go into the first person, or whether you want to add sections, so different planes you can add sections, or whether you're going to be looking at measuring, etc. On the right hand side we have our markup tools. We will investigate the markup tools in a bit more depth later on in the project, but for now we're looking at the ability to have a look at our folders and manage our folder content. So within folder management, what is it that we have to do? So first of all, we have to organize our project folders into the correct setup. We then need to invite the project members in order for them to work on that project with us. We need to then set up folder permissions. So we need to be able to say, right, okay, within this file, I only want X, Y, and Z to be able to be playing around with it. However, if you don't want the client maybe, or you don't want the contractor or someone to be viewing your models, you just simply do not add them to that project file or to that particular project folder. And then you just manage your files. So looking at document distribution, to manually set up your files, we're just going to be going in and adding subfolders. But then what you have is the ability to change the permission level as well. So if you wanted to make sure that only 2 people have access to a file, you can see who from this particular stem on your BIM 360 platform who has actually got permission to do that. The recipients will then receive an email and with a link to the project, and they'll be able to access the project that way. So it's a bit like an invite via email. Looking at 2D and 3D views, as I've mentioned earlier, we can go in and see the 2D, whether it's 2D Revit or 2D PDFs. PDFs are supported at the moment with regards to extracting the title and the number, whereas with the Revit files, they will automatically extract out the file name. In terms of uploading into the plans segment, if you have got a set of drawings that you've uploaded as PDFs, what you can do is extract the number and the title, as I've mentioned earlier, and this is the page that you'll see in order to do that. Now, if there's a missing field, that means the title block isn't there, because what it's trying to do is extract it from the title block. As we can see here in red, it says missing field with a rectangle around the enter name part. That's because the view that's shown in the thumbnail to the left is actually just a normal view extracted from Revit, and it's not a sheet that has been extracted as per the image just below that. Now the markup tools. This is probably an exciting part of BIM 360 for most people, because rather than having to print off a drawing that someone has sent to you, find the highlighters, then use the highlighters to highlight the different areas, then mark up your drawing and comment on it, and then scan it back into the system. Folder management, you have to make sure that you remember to save it somewhere rather than your desktop, and then from that, then you send it to email to someone else. By the time you do that, that's quite painstaking, and it takes a lot of time out of our design lives, really. So what we want to do in the BIM 360 environment, we want to be able to mark up, and we want to be able to make sure that everyone has access to that. So if I select my model here and I go to my markup panel, I can actually say, right, I'm just going to click on this one here, and I'm going to zoom into a particular area, and I'm going to say, okay, maybe I want a balcony area around here, maybe I want some glass or something. So what I can do is just get a great big highlight there, and I can delete it if it's the wrong shape or whatever you want to do. I can change a color, so I can say maybe purple, or is that going to be extracted with the background too much? Yellow is a bit better. Fill style, I can say, right, I want this to outstand with whatever color you want it to have it with. Once that's fine, you can go in and add a text, and you can say, right, I'm just going to add my text. I'm going to say, please can you add glazing to this balcony area. Okay, and once that's done, you can play around with it, you can rotate it just to extract it, get their attention, and you can play around with colors. So if I think that that needs to be in bright pink, or bright yellow, whatever colors you want to write it in, doesn't really matter. You could increase the text size. You can play around with the border color. It just naturally took what we dealt with earlier, and you can play around with the fill color as well. Once you're happy with that, then you can save your markup, and that markup and that screenshot and that location is now available. So we need to make sure that that markup is actually available for the public. So this is a private markup at the moment, it's just available for me. If I exit the markup view and I'm just kind of having a look around the model, etc., and I decided, oh, actually, what's my markup about again? What is it that I need to go in and edit? Then you can have a look at your private markups. If I go to published, then that means this will be available for all of the project members who have got permissions to view this particular model. So if I say publish now, this is a published markup. Anyone else I invite will be able to see it. What I have now is the ability to archive this, ability to add an attachment. So if I have got something else that I want to attach it to, I can do that. Or I could just go in and edit that markup and maybe reduce the size of my box, or add another piece of text, etc. So markups are quite exciting within BIM 360. You'll have a whole load of them probably within this left hand side here. You can either sort it by when it's been created, or filter it by who has set it up, or when has it been created. So it's quite in depth, and it takes you away from having a whole load of paper and all of the time that's spent really in creating a markup. All of that has now been reduced dramatically using this. Once a markup has been created, you'll be able to see that there is markups within, or that there are markups within here. So if you wanted to view it because you think, right, okay, there's a markup, I can then go in and basically review that model and click on the markups function, and that will then take you to whatever markups you have for that particular project. This then takes us on to comparing documents, probably one of my most exciting parts of BIM 360. I like visual representations of what has happened to my project. It takes you away from the black and white lives that we lead. You know, we normally print it off and you think, right, well, what has changed? What do I recognize has changed? And sometimes you don't even realize until you get onto site that something has moved by 3 mil or 5 mil, and that has a detrimental impact on something else. So with comparing documentation, what we have to do is just open up our model, And then we need to just go to the compare feature, which is to the bottom of the screen. And this is where earlier I mentioned that you can actually scroll back to, if you had 6 different versions, you can scroll back and compare it to the first version that you've actually uploaded. But for this one, I'm just going to compare the latest version, version 4, with version 3. And just click on compare. It turns away for a couple of seconds, but it comes up with a report which you can then extract as well. So this is a traffic light system report, which is shown here to the right hand side. So at this particular time, since the last time I've issued it or published this information to the cloud, 3 items have been added, no items have been removed, and 5 items have been modified. Now, how is that? So let's investigate. I can either go in and just have a look at where the different areas might be, or if I click on it, I'll have more information shown here, and it will also highlight it for me. So as you can see, as I'm flicking through it, so it highlights it for me, and you can see what items have been added, and again it highlights it within the model, and you can just concentrate on those areas. Now these walls have been modified because either the door has moved, or the door has increased in size, or something has happened to these particular types of doors. I can get rid of what has been removed or get rid of what has been modified, but I want to see what has been added. So okay, these doors have been added and these walls have been modified because the area of the wall has now decreased in size, so we don't need as much plasterboard or etc. Because we've got a door, which there's going to be a void within that wall. So this wall has been modified. As we can see here, all of the different items that have been modified, and it's much easier for us to see that. The result is a tree, so we can have it like this, so we can have a look to see what walls have been modified, or you can just have a flat result list, which will just take you straight to the ID number. We can distract the different disciplines as well. So if you wanted to see what was a structure change or what was an architectural change, you can also have other options here if there was plumbing, etc. Modification types. So if you want to hide the transformations, then basically we can click on that one. If you want to hide the shape changes, you can click on that one as well, but nothing really is changing in this one at the moment due to the nature of what it is. And if you wanted to download the information, then this information will come in CSV format. So in Excel, we can then go in and see what has actually been changed or added or modified, and we can keep this to a location that will basically monitor the changes. I know a lot of project managers would like to use Excel, and so this will link you back and forth to your changes. So with regards to comparing documents, you've got 2D comparison as well, so exactly the same way as what we've seen in 3D, but you can actually compare it within a 2D environment as well. 2 different versions are compared, whether it's the first and the latest, or whether it's any of the other different versions that you might have updated or uploaded. You might have forgot about a change or not even realized that a particular addition of a door has changed something to the wall, or whether it's going to change anything elsewhere. So it's really good for a visual purpose, and the computer will tell you basically what has changed, what hasn't changed. Yep, you can see here if a project has got, has not been published for a while, a lot of work has been done to it, then you can see this number can actually range into the thousands. What we've seen there was just a simple modification of a couple of doors within the project. In terms of publishing drawings, so from within the Revit interface, this is the good thing about it. So you don't have to really leave the Revit interface in order to publish your drawings. So once you're happy with it, what you need to do is create a set. So you go to Publish Settings, then you go to Create a Set. You add the set name or description, whether it's building regulations, or here for example it's issued for information, so it might be a first issue, and then you select the sheets of views that you want to then publish to the cloud. Only these views will be published to the cloud. So any of your work in progress views, the views that you don't really want to share with anyone, you can still keep hold of that within your Revit environment. So basically you're organizing your works into sets from within the Revit interface. You can control what sheets and views are uploaded into the BIM 360 document management environment. Once you've done that, you press save and close, and then you go to publish your models. So within the publish settings, you can then go into your particular project and then make sure that you can publish those settings. So this is just a bit of a short video on how to publish, how to manage your cloud models. So once you've published, you will then have to still push this information out into the cloud. So it's a conscious decision that you are now uploading and changing the version. So the version I had a look at earlier was version 4. This one here, you can see that there's information yet to be published. You can then go to publish that, so the latest model will then be shown in the cloud, and basically in orange there is just telling you that you can carry on working in the background while this publishes in the background. You can always publish all. So if you've got several different blocks or something and you want to publish all of them in one go, you'll be able to see the list then. You don't have to go through it one by one as we've seen in that short video. So you can just go in and publish all, and all of those those models will then be to the latest within your BIM 360 environment. So, issue management. What is issue management? Issue management is really good for when we're trying to control what information is going backwards and forwards. So with Autodesk, we tend to call it email silos or information silos. So something gets kind of stuck in a bit of a bottleneck. What we can see here is the entire project team can be able to investigate and get into these issues and see what can they help out with, or what items have been a bit of a problem, or what items have been raised for us to review, etc. Is it coordination? Is it for safety? Is it for design? Is it for observation? Is it for quality, etc.? So we can see those, and we can see their subtypes and categories within the issue management part of BIM 360. So what do we see once we click on one of those? An item like this will come up with the color in the top to tell you whether or not that has been looked at or not. So going back to the colors on the left hand side, you've got items in orange, you've got items in red, you've got items in blue. So you mainly we want to see either blue or white, or even just transparent in the left hand side. When you see different colors such as your orange or red, these are high priority. We need to take a look at it, we need to make sure we investigate, etc. You've got a date when it's due, so you can see when is it that you have to rectify this, because it might be a decision that will affect the design or affect the rest of the team. You can have a look at the details of it, any attachments that has appeared with that particular comment or issue, and whether or not we're looking at the activity timeline, so what has actually changed, happened or appeared within your BIM 360 model. And just to finalize, looking at mobile access, we're talking about being able to access your project from anywhere from your mobile device. If you are stuck in the middle of nowhere and you've only got your mobile with no internet connection and you've previously downloaded the model, you can still perform quality checks with the model because it's been downloaded, and then once you're back into internet connection, then that information will then be pushed towards BIM 360 platform again. Once that has been done, then you'll be able to extract that information for issue management maybe later on, and you can log these issues when you're on site, and basically it's available to everyone once you are back into the internet realm. So in terms of what we've had a look at so far, we've looked at the setup in terms of account administration. You need to have a couple of users who will be able to set up your projects, who will be able to add members to the directory, add companies to the directory, and make sure that the roles are specifically mentioned and created correctly to the roles which are being used or added to the projects. We've also had a look at document management from the perspective of plans and project files, and having a look at markups, comparing documentation, and how to kind of publish our models from the Revit interface with a short clip on that one as well. We then had a look at basically wrapping up with creating any issues, or is there anything they would like to highlight within the issues, and all of that information was then uploaded into your document management environment. So in terms of what the next steps are, now that we've had a look at the primary functions of document management, look out on our website for BIM 360 information. Look out on our social media. And any questions, please feel free to message me at batul.jabbar@cadassist.co.uk, and I will answer any of those questions with regards to this webinar. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day today to be here with us to run through primary functions of document management, and I hope you've enjoyed the webinar and that has been insightful for you. Any comments, any feedback are welcome. Thank you very much, and catch you at the next webinar. This is me, Batul Jabbar, signing out from the BIM 360 Document Management webinar.